Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into some absolutely fascinating source material. Specifically, we're looking at a text from March 28th, 2020, focused on the recovery of those suffering from spiritual disturbances. We're going to explore a highly unconventional framework for understanding modern stress, illness, and burnout. It's a perspective that blends the hard, physical realities of our daily grind with an entirely unseen spiritual dimension. Whether you're a total skeptic or a dedicated spiritual seeker, this material offers a really unique lens through which to view human pressure. So let's dive right into this. I want you to think for a second about that completely universal experience of just hitting a wall. Why do we physically and mentally break down when we push past our limits? We usually blame a lack of sleep, right? Or overwork, or maybe just plain bad luck. But what if the collapse wasn't just a mechanical failure of the body or the brain? What if extreme pressure actually opened a door to something else entirely? Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. Number 1, invisible influences. Number 2, the law of same wavelengths. Number 3, illness and spirits. Number 4, causes of disturbance. And finally, number 5, intellect and reason. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, invisible influences and the unseen world. The whole core premise of this source material is that human beings do not exist in a vacuum. We aren't just biological machines walking around. According to the text, our physical bodies are inextricably linked to a spiritual dimension. And this unseen world isn't, tucked away somewhere far off in the clouds. It constantly interacts with us, overlapping right on top of our daily reality. We're perpetually giving off and receiving unseen spiritual influences. But notice how this esoteric theory is actually grounded in really everyday experiences. Think about the standard symptoms of burnout for a minute: unexplained fatigue, sudden emotional volatility, or just random physical breakdowns. While modern medicine views these purely mechanically, the source views them as potential indicators of deeper, unseen spiritual interactions. Basically, when you are overwhelmed, you might actually be carrying a lot more than just your own mental baggage. Moving on to section 2, the law of same wavelengths and the mind's frequency. The source introduces a major esoteric principle here, called the law of same wavelengths, or Hachu Dotsu no Hosoku. Neutrally defined, this is the idea that a person's psychological state acts like a literal magnet. It attracts spiritual influences of a matching frequency. You draw in exactly what you put out. If your mind is peaceful, you attract peaceful influences. But if you are highly stressed or panicked, well, the exact opposite occurs. Think of your mind like a giant radio dial. You are constantly broadcasting and you're constantly receiving. If you tune your dial to negative frequencies, like intense fear, deep anger, or unbearable stress, you invite matching negative spiritual broadcasts to tune right into you. You literally become a magnet for unseen negativity that perfectly shares your current state of mind. Which brings us to section 3, illness and spiritual connections, looking through a very different lens. Now, impartially reporting what the source says here, the text makes a really striking claim. While the physical view of illness focuses purely on viruses and bacteria, the spiritual view presented in this source suggests something way more complex. It actually claims that illnesses, and it specifically mentions phenomena like COVID-19 and influenza, might involve spiritual possession. The text points to impure spirits, or even animal spirits, which it says are entities derived from a person's personality in their past life, literally latching onto the living. So, the crucial takeaway here is captured perfectly in this quote. Even viruses can act as a collective spirit, latching onto those with matching negative frequencies. The source is suggesting that giving in to intense panic or negativity literally lowers your spiritual immunity. When your radio dial is tuned to fear, these disease-causing collective spirits find an open door, attaching to you, simply because your wavelengths match. All right, let's look at section 4, causes of spiritual disturbances and what actually triggers them. The text uses a very specific term for this phenomenon: ratio, or spiritual disturbance. It's defined as negative interference caused by attracting harmful spirits. But the absolutely key takeaway here is that ratio is not random. You don't just catch it out of nowhere like a cold. It is directly 100% linked to your own mental habits and psychological vulnerabilities. The source outlines 3 primary triggers for this disturbance. Number 1 is exceeding your capacity, specifically that intense desire to just escape unbearable pressure when you've taken on way more than you can handle. Number 2 is perfectionism. Holding yourself to an impossible standard creates this rigid mindset that just shatters under stress. And number 3 is extreme emotional swings, oscillating between intense highs and deep, depressive lows. These vulnerabilities are what throw the mind's frequency into total chaos. And that leads us to our final section, number 5, defense via intellect and reason, which is the grounded solution. Now, here is where the source completely flips the script on us. You might expect the cure for a spiritual disturbance to be some elaborate, mystical spiritual ritual, right? But the text argues the exact opposite. The antidote to spiritual vulnerability, like perfectionism and the desperate urge to escape pressure, isn't more spirituality. It's actually a heavy reliance on intellect, reason, and grounded, mundane, everyday effort. The source lays out this really clear step-by-step recovery process to close what it calls the open windows of the mind. Step 1, recognize the pressure. You have to actively acknowledge that you are exceeding your capacity. Step 2, break tasks into small, manageable pieces. Stop trying to do the whole shebang all at once. And step 3, apply intellect and reason to view your situation totally objectively, intentionally stripping away the emotional panic. There's actually a really strong warning in the text here, highlighted by this quote: "Spiritual sensitivity without intellectual grounding is dangerous. You must temper it with solid intelligence and reason." The author insists that relying purely on spiritual feelings or sensitivities without a solid foundation of hard logic will cause you to lose yourself entirely. Intellectual fortitude is your vital shield here. So, what does this actually look like? It translates into incredibly practical defenses. To protect your mind's frequency, the text demands that you maintain a regular life schedule. You have to exercise your physical body. You can't just live up in the clouds. You need to read and study constantly to build your intellect. And above all, you have to make steady, unglamorous daily efforts. Routine and rationality, according to this text, are the ultimate forms of spiritual defense. I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. When we feel overwhelmed, it is so easy to look for a magical escape or just blame the universe for our problems. But based on this fascinating source material, could it be that true spiritual defense is simply steady daily effort and a grounded intellect? The next time you find yourself totally paralyzed by perfectionism or stress, ponder how grounding yourself in mundane reality, just taking things step by step, might actually be your absolute best protection. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.